Hello. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Thyroid Healthy Balance Group, and a very special and very warm welcome to all the new members that have come in over the last week or over the last fortnight. And very, very warm welcome. I'm really, really glad that you're here. And tonight, I really wanted to bring everything back to point zero, so that you, as a unique individual that you are, can feel empowered in the knowledge and understanding about the thyroid gland, your thyroid hormones, what they do in the body, and more importantly, or not necessarily more importantly, but equally as importantly, to understand and be able to decode the thyroid panel, right? Which is the level of testing which I believe should be available to each and every person who has signs and symptoms of thyroid issue or thyroid challenges. Because I'm telling you now, thyroid challenges and symptoms are on the rise. Yeah, there's absolutely no two ways about it. And the precursor to hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism is typically the autoimmune component. So I have clients that have known that they have low functioning or high functioning thyroid, and then have only realized after the fact that they have thyroid autoimmunity, which is almost like a completely different ball game. Yeah, to actually heal and understand the root causes of thyroid autoimmunity, we look in so many different places as opposed to looking at the endocrine system as the system, the little domino effect of that particular system, and treating hypo or hyperthyroidism. So the biggest precursor to hyperthyroidism, which is high functioning thyroid, just think revved, you are revved, is Graves' disease. And it is so underdiagnosed because it's just, the tests are not, the testing panels are not done. Okay, so this is what tonight is all about, so that you can actually understand and be able to decode the panel and be empowered to know what to ask for. Because I feel that we really, as a society, as a community, and just like global community, as an individual, it's really important to take that power back into your own hands. And what I mean by that is having the knowledge and understanding to really understand and know your body so well. When you feel that something is off, you want health professionals to sit up and listen to you. All right? And the typical thyroid panel that's tested, in my opinion, is not good enough for screening, which is why often a normal thyroid issue or a normal thyroid slips through the cracks, and goodness knows how many years later you then listen to because the symptoms haven't subsided or they've gotten worse, and then actually the full panel is done, right? Hey Kath, lovely to see you here. Fantastic. Beautiful. All right, so I'm just going to jump right into it now. And if you've got any questions along the way, please let me know. I might just kind of, do a little bit more of an intro, just wait for people to jump on in. Okay, so thyroid information 101. So tonight, what I'm going to be delivering tonight is information so that you can understand your thyroid, understand your thyroid hormones, understand what they do in the body, right? These are the hormones that drive your health. Okay, it's almost like the thyroid gland, which is a little fatty gland that's a butterfly shape, and it sits in the interior part of the neck, just in front of the trachea here. It's like our second brain. It's like the calibrator. It works on negative feedback loops where, we've got up in the high centers of the brain, we've got hormones that actually we've got particular glands, like for example, the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. Hypothalamus first, that is like the brain's brain. That is like the top control. Like I'm talking like head office, right? The hypothalamus is head office, and it actually ascertains what's going on in the blood. It goes, okay, yep, we've got a little bit of an issue here. There might be some stress that's calling for a little bit more thyroid hormone to be produced. There might be some cold temperature or freezing temperature that's actually wanting some more high thyroid hormone to be produced, or things might have leveled out. There might be some beautiful dopamine, some beautiful feel-good hormone in the body, so that the person is really relaxed and carefree and in complete harmony. So the hypothalamus goes, okay, let's shut down that thyroid hormone. We don't need so much anymore. There's no real sense of urgency here. The person's in bliss, So then it kind of like sends a little cascade down to the pituitary gland, which actually sends out those main messages, via the thyroid stimulating hormone to the thyroid gland to actually tell the thyroid gland to either pump out more T4 and T3 or pump out less T4 and T3. And for example, when more T4 and T3 is pumped out, notably it is about 85% T4 to 15% T3, and I'm going to get more into where the other T3 comes from, all right? So when there's enough and everything has come back to normal and everything's in balance and everything's in harmony, well, what happens is the hypothalamus, again, head office, goes, hey, everything's under control now, or hey, there's been a stress situation go on here. We need more thyroid hormone. We need more thyroid hormone. So then it just signals the pituitary gland, that signals the thyroid hormone, and then it pumps out more or less depending on what the situation is. And that is happening all of the time. Okay, all of the time. So how fantastic is that, that we've got this fantastic like second brain, I call it, which is the thyroid, that actually tells, our gland what to actually do. Do you need more? Do you need less? To get that perfect balance. So if you're coming in here on the replay, or you're new to the group and you're just coming onto this live training for the very first time, I'd like you to take notes and also just check in your own pathology, when is the last time you've had your full thyroid panel done? Because if you've come into this group with hypo or hyperthyroidism, and on your thyroid panel there is no sign of any thyroid autoantibodies that's been tested, that would be something I would recommend to have tested so that you can see what the potential root cause is for the imbalance of the thyroid. Okay? So if you've actually, whether you're here now live or coming in on later on or coming in on the replay, I'd love to know, when have you had your thyroid panel done? Was it last week? Was it a few months ago? Was it a couple of years ago? Was it you don't know? And that's the first question. And the second question is, were you told that your thyroid is normal, but you're still experiencing symptoms of abnormal thyroid function or subclinical thyroid function, such as fatigue, inability to lose weight? You might feel the cold very easily. You might have some hair fall. Or the other side, you might have, like rapid heartbeat. You might have a slight tremor. You might be prone to anxiety. You don't do very well under stressful conditions. You might have some rapid heartbeat. Hypo, you might have a very slow heartbeat. So there's all these different signs and symptoms, which leads me into this next point, what the thyroid does in the body. Okay, so I just want to create some clarity here. So the thyroid hormone, we know that it's well known that it's for our metabolism, and that's pretty much it, so it does so much more than that, right? Like our metabolic health is our body's ability to burn energy or sustain energy. Like slow metabolism, it might be like like a sluggish or slow metabolism, so you're holding on to more weight, or a high metabolism. You know, like we have our genetic predisposition, but then we've got minerals and different mineral ratios that actually can influence that metabolic function as well, which is why I often do that panel in functional testing. However, the thyroid hormone has an effect on every organ system in the body. It's quite marvelous. We have thyroid receptors as far as the bone in our heart, you know, our cardiovascular system, our central nervous system, right? So our sympathetic nervous system, our parasympathetic nervous system, which governs our digestion, in our autonomic nervous system, which is our, you know, our heart rate. Like we don't have to think, okay, heart, beat faster, you know, like it's on automatic pilot, right? So our thyroid influences that as well. Our gastrointestinal tract, absolutely, our thyroid hormones influence that, which is why if you have a high functioning thyroid or too high thyroid, you could be prone to gastrointestinal signs and symptoms such as diarrhea, right? If you've got low thyroid function, which is the most common, by the way, Hashimoto's and low thyroid function is by far more common than Graves' disease and hyperthyroidism. So if you've got low functioning thyroid, it can often manifest as like a sluggish bowel or constipation, right? Think cold and dry as opposed to hot and warm. Hot and, you know, sweaty. Okay, so they're kind of like the two opposites. All right, so you know, our metabolism, it's basically, it's involved in increasing our metabolic rate, which means that we use more oxygen and consume more energy, right? When we lower our metabolism, when we have a low metabolic rate, we're using less oxygen and less energy consumption, right? Hence, if there's an issue, you might be prone to, you know, inability to lose weight, or unexplained weight gain is another one. Yeah, unexplained is the key point there. All right. Now, thyroid hormone also impacts our lung function, has receptors there, and it also has an influence on our blood sugar. So it doesn't directly impact blood sugar, but it has an influence on our blood sugar. So you can see, you know, it's so incredibly important, and therefore we really need to understand, in my opinion, you know, what our potential signs and symptoms are. And if you've got signs and symptoms of anything that I've mentioned, and there is so much more than that, well, that would mean that you've pretty much got a full diagnosis of hypo or hyperthyroidism. Knowing that the most common symptoms are a subclinical thyroid, and this is what slips through and gets missed because the thyroid panel isn't fully done. Okay, so we're going to go into decoding the thyroid panel. So who here has had a thyroid panel done? And whether you've got that handy right now or after this live training, you wish to go and have a look for those results. And if you don't have those results, please ring your GP or your endocrinologist and get a copy. It's you know, it's your blood, it's your right. You know, I tell all of my clients to get copies of your blood test results every single time you have your blood tested, because if you move or if anything happens, you know, and you want to pull up those results, it's better to have it in your hand than have to try and chase it down. All right, so find your blood test results, and I want you to have a look to see if the full thyroid panel is done. So here's the full thyroid panel. We've got thyroid stimulating hormone, which will, on the test result, it'll say TSH. Actually, write these down, Shell, in the comments. My beautiful helper Shell is here. So TSH, there's free T4, right, which is thyroiodine, T4, that's why it's called T4, because it's a mouthful, tetrathyroiodine. Then we've got free T3, which is triiodine, otherwise known as T3. Then we've got our reverse T3. Now, I'm telling you now, that's rarely done. You can push for it. They will charge you. I think it's worth it. You know, get the full panel done, see what's going on. At least once. Yeah. And then and now I'll tell you what all of these do in a moment. And then we've got the thyroid autoantibodies. So typically, if you've got low functioning thyroid, you would want your TPO or thyroperoxidase and your TG or thyroglobulin. Now, typically the thyroperoxidase is elevated with Hashimoto's. Typically the thyroglobulin is elevated with Graves' disease. However, both can be elevated with either, okay, which is why it's a bit tricky. And if you've got symptoms of hyperthyroidism, only then will it be necessary to test the thyroid receptor autoantibodies, otherwise known as TRAB, T-R-A-B. So that's the full thyroid panel. So we're going to decode that now. All right. So again, whether you're coming in live or on the replay, what I'd love you to do is just have a look and just let me know, like, have you had the panel done? And just type panel if you've had the full panel done. And, you know, if you've only had one or two of those parameters, just write only a few, or you might want to even give me the results. It's totally up to you. Yeah. All right. So basically, decoding the thyroid panel. So the parameter for TSH is between 0.35 and 4.5. Now, that is very wide. And you know what? You can have two people with the same symptoms and completely different numbers with the TSH, which is why we actually need to understand more about it by having the rest of the panel done. All right? So the rest of the panel is like, for example, T4, which is our thyroxine or tetrathyroiodine, right? So basically, our thyroxine is the main, it's like the pro hormone. It's like it's primed. It's like, yep, you know, we need more metabolism. We need a stronger or higher metabolic response here in the body with whatever is going on. All right. And if you've got, you know, issues in producing that, typically the cofactors, just going into point 3 now, the cofactors that are normally insufficient are things like iodine, because you can't make thyroxine without iodine. The body cannot make thyroxine without iodine. It is impossible. And we only need it in microdoses. However, there is worldwide deficiency or insufficiency of iodine. And it's one of those Goldilocks minerals, you know, we don't want too much of a good thing, you know, we don't want too little, we just want the right amount. So, you know, urinary iodine tests are really handy. They can be really helpful. They're not a really accurate test by any means. However, I can just give you an indication of what's going on in your body, right? So other cofactors that are required to make T4, which is your thyroxine, are selenium, because selenium works with the thyroperoxidase enzyme, which actually helps to bring the tyrosine, which is one of the amino acids, which we get from protein. It is conditionally essential, so that means that our body makes it most of the time, unless there's an issue with another amino acid called phenylalanine, which is a genetic predisposition. That's when you would need to actually supplement with tyrosine. But otherwise, we get tyrosine in all of our proteins. It's an amino acid. So any amino acid is a protein. We get it through food as well, all right? So essentially, we've got the thyroperoxidase, which is an enzyme. We need thyroperoxidase. We don't want autoantibodies against thyroperoxidase, but we need the thyroperoxidase because it's the enzyme which is the catalyst to make thyroxine. Other cofactors for that are iron, right? And so iron and selenium, yeah, work together to actually help produce our thyroxine. So this is why often I will see in hypothyroid states or Hashimoto's, you know, the client often will have low levels of iron. low levels of stored iron, ferritin. Yeah, so it's not uncommon to see those two. It's like two peas in a pod. Yeah. All right. So also we need T3. Okay, so T3 is produced at the level of 15% in the thyroid gland. It's mainly a conversion from T4 in the cells in our body, predominantly in the liver, however, also in many different other tissues in the body. Okay, so we need cofactors to help that conversion. So if you've got mitochondrial dysfunction, which is basically a poor functioning cell or like a really low battery, it's like you've got a half-mast battery in the cell. So that's another thing. It's linked to type 2 diabetes, to insulin resistance. It's linked to fatigue states, chronic fatigue syndrome. It can go hand in hand with thyroid issues. But the point I'm making is if you've got poor cell health, it can be difficult for you to be converting your thyroxine, which is your T4, your prohormone, into T3, which is your more metabolically active thyroid hormone. Okay, so it's more metabolically active. That's why we want really healthy and strong levels of T3 to actually ensure that we've got that great level of metabolism for all of the things that thyroid hormone does. Okay, so if we have poor cell health, or we have fatty liver or some dysfunctional issue in our liver, it might be difficult for you to convert your T4 to T3, which is why sometimes if you've been diagnosed with low functioning thyroid and you're on a medication such as thyroxine, you may not necessarily feel better because your body potentially cannot convert the T4 to T3 because of poor cell health. Hence, lack of cofactors, poor absorption of minerals, so potentially an issue in the digestive tract, especially if it's an autoimmune etiology. All right, so it's like a double whammy. It's like you can't absorb the minerals because you've got a poor functioning digestive system, and then you can't convert from T4 to T3 because you've got poor functioning cells or a dysfunction in the cells, or even in the phospholipid membrane, which we want to be nice and integral and tight and healthy. Potentially there's inflammation there and it's not healthy, so you can't absorb the cofactors across into the mitochondria to actually do the job of conversion. All right, so all of these factors are really, really crucial, which is why sometimes you might think, well, my thyroid panel is normal, but I still feel horrible. I still feel fatigued, tired. I can't actually lose weight. Yeah, I'm mainly talking about hypo, because hyper is 90% of the time it's because of Graves' disease, which is a completely different etiology. All right. All right, so why would you test reverse T3? Well, if you can imagine, if T4 converts to T3, if it's not converting to T3, where could it be converting to? See if you can answer in the questions in the comments. Where would it be converting to? So if it's, I've kind of already given you the answer. So if T4, okay, let's make this a quiz class. Welcome, whoever's just come in. Welcome, let me know you're here. Give me the thumbs up and a heart. So if you've got T4 converting to T3, and if it's not converting effectively and efficiently to T3, where would it be converting to? Reverse T3. Okay? And our body is always on our side. Always on our side. So if there is stress or infection, or like the body is just trying to put the brakes on your system, okay, and the signal is still going, you know, and there's a little bit of discoordination going on, you know, in your body, what will happen, or it's generally if there's chronic stress load, yeah, what will happen is your body, it will just do a little redirection. Instead of converting it to T3, it will go to reverse T3. So if you've got low T3 on the panel and high reverse T3, it's generally because of stress or infection or chronic illness of some sort, because your body is trying to actually slow you down. Your body is on your side. It's actually trying to put you into bed so that you can just chill out and relax and recover. But in our modern day society, we're like, go, 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 push through the pain, push through the barrier. And what happens is the body goes, no, I'm putting the brakes on you. If you're not going to put the brakes on yourself, I'm going to put the brakes on you. And that's what thyroxine does. It will convert to reverse T3, not T3. All right. Now, obviously, there are more complexities than what I'm highlighting here tonight, but this is to give you a fundamental understanding of what these thyroid markers mean, so that you can be empowered to actually and know what to ask for when you go to get a thyroid panel. And then we have the thyroid autoantibodies, which are thyroperoxidase, which we need that enzyme. And that enzyme is to bring tyrosine and iodine into the thyroid cell. And actually, there's actually 5 steps to make thyroid hormone. All right, I'm going to go through those 5 steps quickly. I think it's quite interesting. Step 1 is the synthesis of thyroglobulin. So thyroglobulin is also an autoantibody that we test for, because we need the thyroglobulin, which is a protein which sits in the thyroid gland within the thyrocyte, which is a thyroid cell. So it sits in there, and that's essentially where the thyroid hormone is produced. So first, that needs to be made. Then the second step is the thyroid gland takes up iodine, because it needs iodine to be able to produce and make and produce thyroxine, which is our main thyroid hormone. The third step is called deiodination, which is basically activating the thyroperoxidase enzyme, which has 3 functions, but I'm not going to go into that. It basically activates the TPO enzyme to call in tyrosine and iodine to make thyroxine. And then step 4 is it binds and packages up into the thyroglobulin, which is in the thyroid cell, for when it needs it. Yeah, for when that thyroid signaling hormone says, come on, we need thyroid hormone, get on out there, right? So it's packaged up and it's stored in the thyroid gland. And then step 5 is the release from the thyrocytes or thyroid cells into the bloodstream, so that the thyroxine, otherwise known as tetraiodine, otherwise known as your pro-hormone, thyroid hormone, can float around in the blood and get activated into T3 to really induce that metabolic action. Those are the 5 steps. Which then brings me to the other autoantibody that we test for in Hashimoto's or Graves' disease, which is thyroglobulin, autoantibody against thyroglobulin. Okay, because if we don't have thyroglobulin, so if we don't test for autoantibodies against thyroglobulin, unbeknownst to us, there can be some low-grade inflammation that's going on in the thyroid gland for goodness knows how long, and you might be doing all the things that are actually influencing that level of inflammation, which is a discoordination of the immune system. It is basically when the immune system actually feels, it gets confused and it actually believes that it's trying to protect you, but in fact it's actually destroying the thyroglobulin, which are the little proteins that package up the thyroid hormone that sit in the thyroid gland. The other autoimmunity autoantibody is against thyroperoxidase, which is the enzyme that brings in the 2 minerals, as I've mentioned, iodine and tyrosine to produce thyroxine. So they're both autoantibodies which can be raised in either Hashimoto's or Graves', but typically I will see higher and creeping higher levels of thyroperoxidase in Hashimoto's and higher levels of thyroglobulin in Graves'. However, they both can be high in both. All right. Okay. And now let's go on to the cofactors. So cofactors, look, the blood tests can be useful to give you an indicator, but in my strong opinion, a functional test testing those levels in tissue is far more reliable because it gives an average over a course of 3 months of what's actually been going on in your bloodstream. So those cofactors are zinc, which are required for the conversion of T4 to T3. So, our body, it needs like little helping hands to actually get the job done. So zinc is one of those. Selenium is one of those. Selenium also recycles glutathione, which is our master antioxidant, I should say, which helps to protect us from things like free radicals, the rust in our body. It helps to protect us. So we want good amounts of selenium. Clearly, as I mentioned before, it also has a function in producing thyroid hormones as well. And then we've got vitamin D, which is really required for so many systems in the body, everything from blood sugar regulation to mood regulation. It also has a function in helping our immune system stay in check. All right, so D for differentiation. It actually tells the cells where they need to go, what they need to do, and it helps to lower inflammation. So vitamin D is really important. Iodine is another cofactor that's really, really important because we can't make our thyroid hormone without adequate iodine. And then iron, as I've mentioned before, and zinc. And then we've got other things that are also important, such as inositol, which is vitamin B8, not readily talked about. Yeah, that actually is helps prevent free radical damage, and it's really an antioxidant, essentially. So vitamin B8 or inositol. And also B12 plays a role, and we've got all those other minerals that play a role on other systems that help them work in order so that our thyroid hormone can be relaxed and not and cohesive. All right. Okay, so the difference between autoimmunity and imbalance. Okay, so the main difference from a pathology point of view is to have the autoantibodies tested. All right, so it's like a diagnostic factor. There's not necessarily going to be different signs or symptoms, and in fact, you could have completely normal levels of thyroid hormone, normal in inverted commas, because what is normal? Your normal might be different to someone else's normal. Like some people's TSH will run higher than other people's TSH, and that's just a fact. All right, so why I believe it's important to regularly have your thyroid checked is because if your just for an example, if your TSH is always run at a level of 1.5 and then suddenly it's a 3.5, even though 3.5 is still within the normal parameter, that's a 2-step jump from your normal. So that means that there's something going on. Your body's trying to whip that thyroid into place and it's labored. So that's where I would do further investigation for sure, especially if you have the signs and symptoms as well. All right, so autoimmunity, it's almost like it's a different system altogether. You can have high autoantibodies and even without a thyroid gland. All right, so it is a particular autoimmune disease which impacts and affects the thyroid gland. However, it's not uncommon for me to see high autoantibodies with other autoimmune conditions. All right. So, it's not just about the thyroid gland. There are other things that could be going on. The body sometimes it gets confused. It produces autoantibodies under the influence of many different elements that could be going on in the body. All right. Okay, so I hope that's giving you a good understanding. I wanted to keep it there because I've done other live trainings on signs and symptoms, on root causes, on all the influencing factors. And tonight I really wanted to keep it to the foundational level of understanding what the thyroid hormones do, decoding and understanding what the thyroid panel consists of, and what the cofactors are, and understanding what your thyroid hormone does. So if you have any questions or you would like to book a call for me to decode your thyroid panel, just write decode. Just write decode and we can jump on a call. It is completely free, obligation free as well, so that I can help empower you so that you can understand more about what's going on with your unique thyroid test. So if you've had a thyroid test done and you don't really know what's going on and you've been told it's normal and you've still got symptoms, this would be a great opportunity for you to get more clarity on what's going on and be empowered with what further tests to potentially ask for. So if that sounds like you and you would like a little helping hand to take that next step to be empowered to know what's going on, just write decode and we can reach out to you and we can jump on a call and you can share the results with me and we can go through it together. All right, that's it from me. I hope you have a beautiful rest of the week, beautiful evening. Don't forget, key point, it's your blood. Get copies of all of your pathology. Super, super, super important. And yeah, I'm here. Just reach out. If you've got any questions, reach out. All right, that's it from me. See you next week. Thanks for jumping on. Bye for now.